Most people believe that travel is expensive, and for most people, most of the time, that belief functions as a wall, a reason not to go, a reason to wait until the circumstances are better, the savings are larger, the moment is more convenient. But here is the truth that experienced travelers know, and that the travel industry has very little interest in telling you: the cost of travel is not fixed. It is not a number that exists independently of the choices you make. It is a variable, and the range of that variable is far larger than most people ever discover, because most people never seriously try to find out. Today, we are going to tell you how to travel the world on a small budget. Not theory, not vague advice. Real strategies, real decisions, and real trade-offs that actually work. Let's start with the single most important decision in budget travel, and it is not the one most people think it is. It is not the flight. It is not the hotel. It is the destination. The destination you choose determines, more than any other single factor, what your trip is going to cost. A week in Paris and a week in Vietnam are not the same financial proposition. A week in Tokyo and a week in Mexico City are not the same. The cost of accommodation, food, transportation, and activities varies enormously between destinations, and choosing a destination where the local cost of living is significantly lower than your home country is the single most powerful budget travel strategy available. In many parts of Southeast Asia, Central America, Eastern Europe, and South Asia, a traveler from the United States or Western Europe can live extremely well. Comfortable accommodation, excellent food, local transport, entry to attractions, for a fraction of what the same quality of experience would cost at home. This is not about suffering through inferior experiences to save money. It is about choosing destinations where your money genuinely goes further, and enjoying the same or better quality of experience for significantly less. Now let's talk about flights, because flights are the most visible travel expense, and the one that most people spend the most energy trying to reduce. The most important thing to understand about cheap flights is that they require flexibility. The traveler who must fly on a specific date, from a specific airport, to a specific destination, will almost always pay significantly more than the traveler who can move their dates by a few days, consider alternative airports, or choose their destination based partly on where affordable flights are currently available. The most effective strategies for finding affordable flights are well established, but consistently underused. Booking well in advance, typically 6 to 8 weeks for domestic flights, and 3 to 6 months for international, consistently produces lower fares than booking close to the travel date. Flying midweek rather than on weekends, on Tuesday and Wednesday specifically, produces lower fares on most routes. Using flight search tools that show fare calendars, allowing you to see prices across an entire month rather than on a single specific date, reveals price differences that can be substantial. And setting price alerts for routes you are interested in, and then waiting for a fare drop rather than booking immediately, is a strategy that patient travelers use consistently and effectively. The second biggest expense for most travelers is accommodation, and this is the area where the difference between budget and non-budget travel is most stark. A hotel room in a major tourist city can cost more per night than a week of accommodation in a well-chosen hostel, guest house, or apartment rental. And the traveler who is willing to consider alternatives to conventional hotels opens up a range of options that are not just cheaper but often more interesting and more connected to the actual character of the place they are visiting. Hostels have changed significantly in the past decade, and the modern hostel experience, particularly in well-reviewed establishments with active common areas, private room options, and genuine community atmosphere, is completely different from the overcrowded dormitories that the word sometimes still conjures. For solo travelers and for budget-conscious travelers of any age, a well-chosen hostel is often the best possible combination of value, social connection, and local knowledge. The person at the hostel reception desk, or the fellow traveler in the common room, often has more current, practical, specific knowledge about the city than any guidebook published even a year earlier. Beyond hostels, the growth of apartment rental platforms has made it possible to stay in genuine local neighborhoods, cooking your own meals, living alongside local residents rather than in tourist zones, and accessing a quality and size of space that hotels at the same price point cannot match. For travelers staying in a city for more than a few days, renting an apartment almost always represents better value than a hotel, and the ability to cook even a few meals rather than eating out every time produces significant savings, without any reduction in the quality of the travel experience. Let's talk about food, because food is one of the areas where budget travel is most often misunderstood. The assumption that traveling cheaply means eating poorly is one of the most persistent and most incorrect beliefs in travel. In many of the world's best travel destinations, the cheapest food is also the best food. The street food of Southeast Asia, the noodle soups of Vietnam, the grilled meats of Thailand, the satay of Indonesia, is not inferior food eaten by budget travelers who cannot afford restaurants. It is the food that local people eat, prepared by specialists who have spent years perfecting a small number of dishes. And it is genuinely some of the best food available in those countries at any price. The principle extends beyond Southeast Asia. In Mexico, the best tacos are not in the restaurants that cater to tourists. They are at the roadside stands and market stalls where locals eat. In India, the most extraordinary food experiences are often the cheapest ones. Thali meals served on banana leaves, street snacks of extraordinary variety and flavor, chai prepared by specialists who have been making the same recipe for decades. In Italy, a sandwich bought from a local alimentari and eaten in a piazza costs a fraction of a restaurant meal and is often a far more authentic and enjoyable experience. Eating where local people eat, rather than where tourists are directed, saves money and almost universally produces better food. Now let's talk about local transportation, because how you move around within a destination can be the difference between a manageable budget and a surprisingly expensive one. In most of the world's great travel destinations, public transportation is comprehensive, affordable, and significantly more interesting than taking a taxi or a private transfer. The metro systems of cities like Tokyo, Mexico City, Budapest, and Bangkok cover their respective cities comprehensively and cost a fraction of what a taxi for the same journey would charge. In destinations where public transport is less comprehensive, local options, shared minibuses, local ferries, bicycle rentals are typically far cheaper than tourist-specific transport and often more revealing of the actual character of the place. The traveler who takes the same bus that local people take, who sits beside the same people, who stops at the same places, experiences a dimension of the destination that is simply invisible from the back of a taxi or a private transfer vehicle. This is not just a budget strategy. It is a travel strategy, one that produces richer, more genuinely connected experiences as a direct consequence of spending less money. Let's now talk about timing, because when you travel matters enormously for what you pay. Travel in peak season, summer in Europe, December in Southeast Asia, school holiday periods almost everywhere, means paying peak prices for flights, accommodation, and popular attractions, competing with the largest possible crowds, and often experiencing popular destinations at their most overwhelmed and least pleasant. Travel in shoulder season, the periods immediately before and after peak season, typically produces significantly lower prices, smaller crowds, and in many destinations, genuinely better weather than the peak period itself. Spring and autumn in Europe, for example, offer lower prices, smaller crowds at major attractions, and often more comfortable temperatures than the summer peak. The early weeks of what is considered low season often provide the best combination of acceptable conditions and genuinely reduced prices. The free and low-cost activities in almost every destination are also consistently underutilized by travelers, who assume that the best experiences must be the expensive ones. In almost every major city in the world, the most genuinely interesting experiences, walking the neighborhoods, exploring the markets, sitting in the parks, visiting the free museums and galleries, attending public events and street performances, cost little or nothing. The paid attractions at the top of every guidebook list are often less interesting and less revealing of the actual character of a place than the free experiences that require only curiosity and a willingness to walk. And finally, let's talk about the mindset that makes budget travel actually work, because the strategies are available to anyone, but the mindset is what determines whether they are actually applied. Budget travel requires a willingness to trade comfort for experience, not to suffer, but to accept that a smaller room, a longer journey, an earlier flight, or a simpler meal is a reasonable trade for the freedom that the saved money provides. Every dollar saved on accommodation is a dollar available for an extra day in a destination you love, or a journey to somewhere you hadn't planned to go, or simply the security of knowing that the trip can continue longer than originally planned. Budget travel is not about deprivation. It is about priorities, about deciding what genuinely matters to you in a travel experience, and allocating your resources accordingly, rather than paying for things that do not actually add to the experience simply because they are what most travelers assume they are supposed to want. The world is accessible on a smaller budget than most people believe. The wall is not money. The wall is the belief that travel requires more money than you have. And the most effective thing you can do, if you want to travel more, is to stop treating that belief as a fact and start treating it as a choice.